Like all media reports, there is a reason why the story was written, because it's worth writing about. But like most media reports, there is a certain degree of embellishment. Also, if you were not in the US, you will never realize how CNN paints an almost morbid picture of the rest of the world. There's usually a very biased, as one-sided as a story gets with CNN. If you check out the article links we posted, there is no good about China, only bad. There is rarely any good things written about China in most US media. If all that were true, why are there so many Americans still flying over to China? Many have chosen to live in China over the US. Many see China as the greener pasture anyway. This is because they choose to come see it for themselves, or to look past all that biased media and take a risk. Of course, there is no better or worse country, and there is a bit of truth in whatever CNN decided to write about. But they are biased, so when I listen or watch CNN, I make sure that I know this is CNN's point of view, not the Americans, not the rest of the world. During 2008 unrest in Tibet, the China Daily newspaper reported that there has been bias in Western media's coverage of the rioting in Tibet, especially in the captioning and cropping of images, and misreferencing photos from unrelated instances or other countries. The article stated that Chinese netizens were angered by what they saw biased and sometimes dishonest reporting by Western media. CNN's John Vauss, who reported this story, responded to criticism as, technically, it was impossible to include the crashed car on the left. On April 9, 2008, edition of CNN's The Situation Room carefully remarked that, well, I don't know if China is any different, but our relationship with China is certainly different. We're in hock to the Chinese up to our eyeballs because of the war in Iraq. For one thing, they are holding hundreds of billions of dollars worth of our paper. We also are running hundreds of billions of dollars worth of trade deficit with them. As we continue to import their junk with the lead paint on them and the poison pet food and export, jobs to places where you can pay workers $1 a month to turn out the staff that we're buying from Walmart. So I think our relationship with China has certainly changed. I think they're basically the same bunch of goons and thugs they've been for the last 50 years. China's foreign ministry demanded an apology, and lawsuits were filed against the capital in Beijing. Hundreds of Chinese Americans held a protest on April 26, 2008 in front of CNN headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia for the anti-China comments. Chinese netizens, including students studying overseas, have been angered by biased and sometimes dishonest reports about the recent riots in Tibet by some Western media. The West is imposing universality in equality in race, gender, freedom of choice in education, language, religion, migration, marriage, speech, as well as human rights constitution. In view of China being the host of Olympic 2008, a rising economy which had been showcasted as a downplay of democracy, let us look into how the mechanism of democracy may not exactly work. For a country to continue booming economical development, it has to be politically stable with free economy and labor market, well-organized educational institution, and guarded security. As the saying, one needs to break eggs in order to make omelets. Henceforth, democracy is sacrificed in the name of achieving a state as such to sustain a healthy and steady growth, largely in an economical measure. Which hindsight, is democracy luxury nation for the motion for developing countries? Maybe. Some of the examples of which country have been ransacked by the ideology of democracy, but not economical development, are Philippines, Myanmar, India, Namibia, and Latin American countries. India presents us with a paradox of the coexistence of democracy and poverty, specifically the continued existence of electoral democracy with popular participation along with mass poverty. The paradox is not trivial. We have good reasons to be surprised about it. Making sense of this paradox taken us to the explanatory framework that may shed light on the mechanism that makes this paradoxical coexistence possible. The framework may also enable us to do a little more, understand the changes over time and differences across the various states in the relationship of democracy with poverty. The social discontent in Brazil, the region with the world's greatest disparity in the distribution of wealth and incomes, anger and dissatisfaction with the status quo are empowering politicians who are recycling dangerous populist formulas that place leaders above institutions. In the streets of Brazil, one can hear the sounds of 200 million poor and excluded women and men who are unable to taste the economical fruits of prosperity prior to the global financial meltdown. They are demanding a job with a decent salary, access to potable water and sanitation, quality health care and education, clean energy, an uncontaminated environment, and equal access to justice. The youth are eager to obtain access to the digital world. In turning our attention to economic development and their implications, we touched briefly on the circular argument as to whether South America's troubles stemmed from political failure which had caused economic problems, or whether a slowdown in the economies which mirrored global developments had led to disillusion with the political classes and institutions. Others thought that economic liberalization without a strong state would prove disastrous for many of the developing economies of South America. Asian success had been built on strong governments which had given protection to their national industries until they were able to compete in global markets. Lack of rule of law was thought to be a significant factor in capital flow out of the area. Let us turn our angle to look at the USA 2008 presidential election. Hillary Clinton failed and rejoined Obama in order to uphold the value of democracy. USA is making a major step in making races, ethnicity, skin color, family background insignificant to its people. It is a very encouraging move. How such ideology is suitable for those countries with only one race and with the existence of caste system, such as Singapore, Korea, Japan, China, Middle East, India, etc. Democracy, translated into Chinese as Minzhu, or people as masters, is not a concept inherent in Chinese culture or political philosophy. In fact, it is in complete opposition to Confucian ideology, which stresses harmony and obedience. But neither is democracy a concept that has just recently taken hold in the minds of Chinese youth who have seen the wonders of democracy in Western style discourse and fast food. The Chinese democratic tradition has begun nearly 100 years before the white plaster statue erected in Tiananmen Square attracted the attention of the world. In those 100 years, it has been the cause of rebellions, arrests, purges, and endless debate on the best way to understand and implement such a complex form of social organization. Democracy was introduced into China almost single-handed by an exiled Chinese writer named Liang Qichao. In 1895, he was involved in protests in Beijing calling for increased participation in government by the Chinese people. It was the first protest of its kind in modern China history. Escaping to Japan after the government cracked down on anti-Qing protesters, he translated and commented on the works of Hobbes, Rousseau, Locke, Hume, Bentham, and many more Western political philosophers. He published his essays in a series of journals that easily found an audience